Let's start with Thursday night football. The Bills coming off an absolute annihilation of my New York Jets. Wire to wire, embarrassing performance. Justin Fields completed 3 passes, and now they are hosting the Miami Dolphins on a short week. The Dolphins absolutely stink. The strength of this Dolphins defense was supposed to be their defensive line. They only have 4 sacks so far on the season, and Josh Allen's the hardest quarterback to sack in the NFL. So he should have plenty of time in the pocket. And even if he is under duress, he'll be able to roll out, make some plays. And these Dolphins corners also absolutely stink. So the weakness of this Bills offense is their pass catchers on the outside. They'll be able to get open against Storm Duck and this Dolphins secondary. So I think the Bills, they are double-digit favorites for a reason. I think they blow out this Dolphins team. The Dolphins have allowed 140 rushing yards per game over the first 2 weeks as well. The Bills' running game has been very efficient. James Cook might lead the NFL in rushing yards, actually, now that I think about it. He's up there for sure. This Bills' run game has been absolutely electric through the first 2 weeks of the season. I don't expect that to go anywhere because of how bad this Dolphins defense has been at all facets, but particularly against the run. This Bills team is on a roll. They blow out bad teams historically. Since Josh Allen has established himself as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, I think that doesn't change. I think they blow out this garbage Miami Dolphins football team. 11.5 points. I don't even think that's enough. I think they could win by 2 touchdowns. So the Bills are double-digit favorites for a reason. I think they'll beat them by 2 touchdowns. And some player props that I like for Thursday night football, obviously I'm taking the Bills minus 11.5. They are double-digit favorites for a reason. If they're double-digit favorites and the game goes according to what Vegas thinks it's going to be, let me lock in. If this game goes accordingly to how the Bills want it to go and how Vegas predicts it to go, that would mean the Bills are dominating wire to wire, which would mean game script in favor of James Cook to go off and this Bills running game to eat against the Dolphins running defense that is allowed. I have it on here somewhere. 140 rushing yards per game, bottom 10 defensive unit in the league against the run over the first 2 weeks. They didn't exactly play the greatest of offensive lines either in the Patriots. So some player props that I like for Thursday night football is obviously the Bills minus 11.5, and then I like James Cook over 68.5 rushing yards, and then I like Ray Davis over 23.5 rushing yards as well. It's a very short list of running backs that have been better than James Cook to start the season. The Dolphins through the first 2 weeks allow 140 rushing yards per game. So I expect this Bills team to dominate wire to wire, which will lead to them leaning on this run game to chew clock, get first downs to ice this game later on. I just have a tough time seeing this Dolphins team keeping it close. The Bills are better at literally every single position battle. Like, they're going to win the trench battle with their offensive line versus the Dolphins defensive line. They're going to dominate the trench battle on the other side of the ball with their defensive line going up against this Dolphins O-line. That's one of the worst in the NFL. Tua has been sacked a lot through the first 2 weeks of the season. They don't have the corners, Miami, to keep up with these Bills playmakers. This Dolphins run defense has been horrible. The only slight advantage I think the Dolphins have is if Tua does have time in the pocket, I think Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle can get open on Christian Benford, Teron Johnson. I don't think Maxwell Harrison's, he's on IR, so I don't know who their other corner is, but either way, I don't think Tua will have time in the pocket against this Bills pass rush. So I think the Bills will be winning, and I think they'll ride James Cook, they'll ride Ray Davis, they'll ride their running backs to ice this game out towards the end. In the fourth quarter, late third quarter even, because I think they'll be up 2 touchdowns by the third quarter, quite frankly. This Bills team, they blow out bad teams. The Dolphins are a bad team. You take the Bills here. Double-digit favorites for a reason. Let's move on to the 1 o'clock slate. I'm only going to do the 1 o'clocks today, and then I'll do the 4 o'clocks tomorrow. Starting with my Jets at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think the Jets can keep this game close. I think it helps that Tyrod Taylor is starting at quarterback instead of Justin Fields for this game in particular, because Todd Bowles likes to disguise blitzes, likes to disguise a lot of coverages, and I trust Tyrod Taylor to be able to diagnose that way faster than Justin Fields would. I also trust this Jets offensive line, who looked good against the Steelers pass rush. And although they did allow 4 sacks last week, 2 of them came on defensive back blitzes by the Bills. They were blitzing DBs and corners all game against this Jets offense. It messed up their rushing attack, and it messed up their passing attack as well. The Jets offense was all out of sorts. Masterclass by Sean McDermott and the Bills defense I like Tyrod Taylor to be able to manage the game better than Justin Fields, to diagnose the defense, understand what coverages Todd Bowles is going to run. Maybe not all the time, because Todd Bowles is a madman with some of the blitz packages he sends. It's impossible for a quarterback to read every single defensive look that Todd Bowles is going to throw at them, but I trust Tyrod to get them more than Justin Fields. So I think that's beneficial for this Jets offense. This Jets offensive line is also held up pretty well. They only allowed 1 sack versus the Steelers. They only allowed 2 sacks against defensive, against like not what is the word that they always use? Not artificial pass rush, simulated pass rush. They only had 2 sacks against non-simulated pass rush against the Bills. This Bucs defensive line doesn't exactly have elite pass rushers on the edge, and I think Armand Membu has been an absolute dog coming in, the rookie from Mizzou. Olu Fashanu didn't have a good week last week, but he still has been better than what the Jets have had at left tackle for the past decade. The interior of this Jets offensive line is pretty solid as well, and the Bucs are without Kalijah Cansey, their starting defensive tackle, for the entirety of the season. He was on season-ending IR. So I think this Jets offensive line will be able to hold up against this Tampa Bay defensive line and give Tyrod Taylor enough time to at least be a little bit efficient passing the ball down the field. And I trust him to read this Todd Bowles blitzes, pick up the Todd Bowles blitzes, pick up what the defensive coverage is better than Justin Fields would in this scenario. So I think this Jets offense is going to take a little bit of a step forward after the brutal showing that they showed against the Buffalo Bills in week 2. And on the flip side of that coin, I think that actually, no, we'll stay with the Jets offense. They're not going to be able to run the ball. And that's what worries me, because Todd Bowles has always had good run defenses since he's been in the NFL. I think I have a stat here. So they were top 10 against the run a year ago. They are top 5 again this year through the first 2 weeks, averaging just 76 rushing yards per game. This Texans offensive line wasn't able to run the ball on them. And then even the Falcons offensive line in week 1. And we saw how the Falcons were able to run the ball against the Vikings in week 2, dominant, like 200 rushing yards, 5 yards a carry. They weren't able to move the ball on the ground against this Bucs defense. So that does worry me, because Tanner Engerstrand, the offensive coordinator for the New York Jets, does come from Detroit. And that offense, that Ben Johnson-esque offense, is reliant. It's almost necessity that you get this run game going, because the rest of the offense comes off of it. The chunk plays come off of the play action. That does worry me a little bit. I don't think they'll be able to run the ball that efficiently against this Bucs defense. Todd Bowles always has them defending the run very well. Let's flip to the other side of the ball now, where the Bucs offense, I think, will have success against this Jets defense, because other than Sauce Gardner, their secondary hasn't been very good. But the Bucs are dealing with a lot of injuries on the offensive line. Their 2 starting tackles are out, or are questionable to return. Tristan Wirfs was a participant in practice today. I forget the other one's name. I have it here somewhere. Bear with me for a second. They did lose their starting guard, Cody Mock. I don't know if that's how you say his name either. For the rest of the year, he's on IR. And Luka Decky didn't practice today. He left in week 2 as well, early with an injury. So their offensive line is beat up, and the Jets have a very good pass rush with Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald, and Quinnen Williams. So I do think this Jets pass rush will be able to get home on a beat up Tampa Bay offensive line. If Tristan Wirfs does play, he did practice, that would suck as a Jets fan. It'd be good for the Bucs, obviously, because this would be a bad game to not have both of your starting tackles when you have Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald coming off the edge. And then in the secondary, Mike Evans is the type of receiver Sauce Gardner typically does very well against. Sauce Gardner struggles with the twitchy, fast lateral movement type of guys. Like, he struggled with Jalen Waddle a lot in his career, and he struggled with Khalil Shakir, but he's done good against the bigger bodies, the jump ball guys, the guys that aren't going to create much separation, that you like to play on a straight line. Like, he's locked up George Pickens, he's locked up DK Metcalf. I think Mike Evans is in that similar type of player. So I think Sauce will have success against Mike Evans if the Jets were to have him follow him around, which they don't do often. With Sauce, usually he stays on his side. But the rest of this Jets pass defense has been horrible. Brandon Stevens has been horrible. Their safeties, Tony Adams, has been bad. Andre Sisco has been all right, but this Jets secondary has not been good outside of Sauce Gardner, and their run defense has also been a joke. However, it is helpful for the Jets that the Bucs offensive line is beat up. So I do like the way this Jets defense matches up with this Bucs offense in certain aspects. And the Bucs haven't exactly been dominating teams. Both games were one possession games that they won. So I like the Jets to cover 6.5 in this game. But I don't throw the word lock around often, but I am so confident that Garrett Wilson is going to have a monster game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday because of one reason. Tyrod Taylor, every time he's gotten on the field in a New York Jets uniform and Garrett Wilson has been out there, fed. Absolutely fed him. It happened twice against the Bills, one last year, one time this year. Basically, all of Garrett's receptions last week came with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback against the Bills. And then last season, the Jets obviously getting blown out by the Bills. Here comes Tyrod Taylor. I think Garrett had like 3 catches and a one-handed touchdown grab against this Bills defense. When they were in OTAs before Justin Fields came to town, it was Tyrod Taylor to Garrett Wilson. Tyrod is going to feed Garrett. So I put a double units. I put 2x units on Garrett to get 60 receiving yards, and I'm going to ladder his receptions from whatever it is, probably like 5.5, 6.5, all the way to 10. Garrett Wilson is going to have a monster game with Tyrod Taylor as his quarterback. There's no other option on this Jets in this Jets wide receiving core. Benjamin Morrison, the rookie corner out of Notre Dame, has been banged up. Jamel Dean's the other corner in Tampa Bay. None of those guys, nobody in the league can stick with. There's a very short list of people. Not even, I mean, Garrett Wilson got the best of Pat Surtain last year when they matched up at times. So nobody in this league can guard Garrett one-on-one. Tyrod Taylor's going to absolutely feed him the ball. He's going to have a monster day. This Bucs secondary isn't that good either. So I love Garrett Wilson this week against this Bucs secondary with Tyrod Taylor as his quarterback. Tyrod has fed him every chance he's gotten to play meaningful snaps in a Jets uniform. So take Garrett Wilson. And I think the Jets are going to cover 6.5. This is a bad spot for Tampa Bay to have a lot of injuries on their offensive line. With Gadecki going out, their starting guard is just out for the season. Tristan Wirfs was limited in practice, but who knows if he's going to play this weekend. You've got Will McDonald, Quinnen Williams, Jermaine Johnson rushing the passer on this Jets defensive line. And as far as the Bucs offense goes against this Jets defense, Mike Evans is the type of receiver Sauce Gardner typically clamps down. The bigger receiver that's not going to route you up laterally. Like he's more of a deep threat jump ball guy. Sauce locks those guys up. Ask DK Metcalf, ask George Pickens. He has trouble with like the Khalil Shakirs, Jalen Waddles, the quick burst, twitchiness, quick lateral movement guys. So I think this Jets defense, particularly Sauce, matches up well against Mike Evans. The Jets' run defense has been horrible. And others outside of Sauce, the pass defense has been bad as well. But there's a lot of injuries. Kalijah Kancey's out for the year on the defensive side for this Bucs team as well. So I think the injuries on the Bucs and Tyrod Taylor instead of Justin Fields manning the QB position for the Jets, because he'll be able to diagnose this Bucs defense way faster. Not that he'll be able to do it successfully, but I have more faith in Tyrod Taylor picking up a Todd Bowles blitz as my QB than Justin Fields does. So I think the Jets cover 6.5 in this game as well. Obviously, that was one of the more overanalyzed games of this slate because I am a Jets fan. So let's see now. Let's get into Packers at Browns. The Packers are 7-point favorites in Cleveland. You got to take the Packers here. The Browns have been able to protect Flacco. He's only been sacked 4 times, but they haven't played a defensive line like the Packers that just shut down. This Packers defense just shut down 2 top 5 offenses from a year ago, one of them being the best offense in the NFL, the Detroit Lions, scoring 32-plus points a game a season ago, held them to, I think it was 6 points, and they scored a garbage time touchdown. So this Packers defense is coming different. They're also coming off 10 days of rest against a Browns defense that is a one-man show with Myles Garrett, and it's a very good show. If anybody can ruin a game, it's Myles. He has 3.5 sacks on the season already, but the rest of the team only has 2. And Joel Bitonio, the best Browns offensive lineman, is questionable. So is safety Grant Delpit. So the Packers have been struggling to get Josh Jacobs going, and this Browns defense has actually been number 1 against the run. They locked up Derrick Henry in week 2. So I don't know if they'll be able to get Josh going, and that does concern me a little bit for this Packers offense. They're without Jaden Reed as well. Lamar Jackson was dialing up the deep shot all day against this Browns secondary that's very overrated outside of Denzel Ward. No disrespect to Denzel Ward, but I swear some Browns fans talk about Greg Newsome like he's the greatest nickel corner in the history of the NFL. Like I had like a 130 passer rating when targeted last season. That guy's not good. I think LaFleur and Jordan Love loves to let the ball fly. I think they're going to dial up a lot of explosive plays. Lamar had multiple 20-plus pass completions in week 2. So I'm all over this Packers -7. I think they've looked like the best team in the NFL over the first 2 weeks. They played a team that was in the NFC Championship and a team that was in the NFC Divisional Round, 2 top 5 offenses. Now they're only getting, and they beat both of them. Or I guess they didn't beat the Commanders, but I don't remember. I don't think they beat the Commanders by double digits, but they beat the brakes off the Lions. I think they beat the brakes off this Browns team. I'd take them. I'd see what their halftime spread is too. If it's like 4, maybe I'd take. I don't know. I'd be a little hesitant because the Browns were in that game against the Ravens a little bit, at least at the half. So I'd be hesitant. But Packers -7, I like that all day long. The next game we'll get into is Colts at Titans. I hate betting against Cam Ward, and I hate betting I hate betting -3.5. Like that's just the worst spread to take. Like 3.5 and 6.5 is the worst spread to take. So when I first looked at this game, I was like, I'm gonna take Cam Ward. That guy's just a dog. But the more I broke it down, it's like this Titans defense is horrible, and this Colts offense is going to dominate the line of scrimmage. I think they'll be able to run the ball all over this Titans defense. The Titans defense that's allowing 150 rushing yards per game through the first 2 weeks. This Colts O-line will impose its will. Devondre Sweat is questionable as well, and that's a lot of body you're losing in the middle of this Titans defense. I think Jonathan Taylor, who's looked incredible, will have another big day, and Danny Dimes should have plenty of time in the pocket, and we've seen what he can do with time in the pocket for the first time in his career. He's leading the NFL in passing yards, or he's second in the NFL in passing yards. So I think this Colts offense will be able to produce against a lackluster Titans defense. And L'Jarius Sneed does not look like the L'Jarius Sneed on the Kansas City Chiefs. He allowed the second most passing yards in the NFL last week. So I think even though Michael Pittman and Josh Downs, who's questionable, and A.D. Mitchell, like these aren't exactly world beater receivers, and Alec Pierce, but they're good enough to get the job done against a very questionable Titans secondary and a run game that Daniel Jones can work the play action off of. And the threat of the run game is just going to dominate. They're going to dominate the line of scrimmage, and I don't think Cam Ward will have enough offensively. I will say this, though. This is easily the worst defense Cam Ward will have played against so far in his young NFL career. The Rams defense looks like the best in the NFL for the first few weeks, besides the Packers. And the Broncos defense also a top 3 unit in the league for sure. So this will easily be the easiest defense Cam Ward will have. I think this will be the most success Cam Ward will have throwing the football. I think they're 32nd in passing offense so far this season. But I like Cam Ward. I just think we're not there yet. This Colts team's too hot. This Colts offense is too good. Just because I'm picking every single game this week, I'm gonna pick Colts 3.5 just to see how we do and see if this can be profitable or not. See if I really know what the fuck I'm talking about. Likely I don't. Yeah. By the way, I'm giving you all these picks, guys. I would not take them. Like, use what I say. Use some of the information I say. Definitely use some of them because this is like I'm spitting facts, obviously. But I suck at gambling. I'm a fucking horrible gambler. So at the end of the day, I would fade every pick that I give. That doesn't mean I don't know ball though. These takes are pretty spot on. Water break. This water break brought to you by Pickett. Make sure you download Pickett. If you're gambling without using Pickett, by the way, you need to use it. I was using it before they reached out to me. It turns out they reached out to me to use my referral code. Everybody gets a referral code. But download Pickett, use referral code FST, and you can win up to $100. Yeah, but what it does, they're basically paying you to download the app and use it. And it's a very helpful tool if you gamble a lot because it'll show you, without the premium version, it'll show you what the public is on. So you can see where the money is, and you know what they say. You always got to fade the public. Historically, that'll be a pretty good strategy. This app will show you what the public is betting. And if you get the premium version, which I don't think it's that expensive, I have to look it up, they'll tell you which book gets the best odds for a certain pick and where to put your money. So if you bet on a bunch of different books, you need to be using Pickett because it'll also sync all of your books into one place too. So you don't have to keep going back and forth to track all your bets. They'll all be in one place. Very useful tool if you gamble. All right. Rams at Eagles. The Eagles are 4.5-point favorites. I love the Rams in this game, man. I love the Rams +4. I love the Rams on the money line too. The Eagles have struggled to generate pressure so far this season. They are bottom half in the league in pressure rate at just 17%, and they're tied for 30th in the NFL in sacks. If they can't get to Matthew Stafford, if they can't pressure Matthew Stafford, it's going to be a long day for this Eagles defense because they do not have the guys to guard Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. I've been on the record and I stand on that. I think that's the best receiver duo in the NFL. I think Puka is a top 5 receiver in the NFL. Him and AJ are flip-flopped at the 4-5 spot, and then I think Devontae Adams is the 6th best receiver in the NFL. The washed allegations getting thrown on Davante Adams made no sense to me. They still make no sense to me. That guy is a top 10 receiver in the NFL, basically unguardable. And you give him a guy like Matthew Stafford. You saw the throw and catch they had where Davante was blanketed, but it was a perfect throw and an even more impressive catch last week on, I think it was a shallow crosser for a first down. That duo heating up is scary for the NFL because Puka Nacua also had 100 yards and a touchdown. So the Eagles do not have the guys to cover Davante and Puka. And Quinyon Mitchell's a good player. He's not covering either of these guys. Cooper DeJean, although I think he's gotten a little bit overrated, he's not a cover corner. He's a good tackler. He's a good guy to have around the box. That's what his role is as the star. And then Adoree Jackson on Davante or Puka, or Keely Ringo on Davante or Puka. This Eagles defense is going to have to get pressure, or Matthew Stafford and this Rams offense is going to pick them apart. And that's without talking about the Rams on the defensive side of the ball. The Rams so far this year through 2 weeks defensively, number one scoring defense. They have 0 missed tackles according to Pro Football Reference. So the least amount of missed tackles in the NFL. The 7th higher pressure rate, tied for 2nd in sacks. This Rams defensive line sacked Jalen Hurts 7 times in the playoffs last year. That was a young group of first and second year players and then 2 rookies. That group's only gotten better. This Rams defense has also been top 5 against the pass, 4th in total yards, passing yards allowed, or 4th least amount of total passing yards allowed, 2nd in passing yards per attempt, 15th versus the run, and that's where this game lies. The reason the Rams lost to the Eagles last year in the playoffs in the divisional round was because Saquon Barkley ran for 200 yards on this Rams defense. And that was a similar story in the regular season as well. The Rams need to stop Saquon Barkley. That's how they win this game. Because Jalen Hurts, he was 15 for 20 against the Rams in the divisional round, but he wasn't exactly stretching the ball down the field. This Rams defense sacked Jalen Hurts 7 times. That was the most he's ever been sacked in his NFL career, tied for the most. This Rams defense has been electric to start the season. Number 1 scoring defense in the league. 7th highest pressure rate. 2nd in sacks. They missed the least amount of tackles. They're a top 5 unit against the pass. And this Eagles passing offense hasn't exactly been inspiring through the first 2 weeks of the season either. So if they can stop Saquon Barkley, they will win this football game. Because on the defensive side of the ball for Philly, they need to generate some pressure. They were 30th in the NFL in sacks after 2 weeks, 17% pressure rate. That's bottom half of the league. They don't have the guys on the back end to keep up with Davante Adams and Puka Nacua. So the Eagles need to get pressure, and they haven't shown an ability to do that after losing Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham, some other edge rushers this offseason. I'm not saying they won't be able to, but they haven't been able to yet on the edge this season. So I think this Rams team matches up very good with the Eagles. I think the Rams win this game. I'm taking them at +4, and I have a hard time seeing the Eagles blowing this Rams team out too, unless Saquon Barkley just goes off, which he did twice last season against the Rams, once in the playoffs. So I like the Rams +4. I like the Rams on the money line. And this Eagles team, I don't want to say they got lucky last week, but Hall of Fame tight end drops a touchdown, turns into an interception. Eagles score on the ensuing drive. Just saying. They didn't get lucky, but that's a very fortunate circumstance. So I like the Rams this week against the Eagles. No disrespect to the Eagles. And I love Davante Adams over 59.5 receiving yards as well. I'm staying away from player props, but that's just too juicy for me to refuse when Quinyon's a good player. He's not guarding Davante one-on-one. And then don't even get me started on Adoree Jackson. Water break brought to you by Pickett. Use code FST, get went up to $100. All right. So that was like Rams at Eagles is the one game I feel the strongest about in terms of I'm going to be betting the shit out of that game, okay? Let's talk about the second game that I like the most, and that is Falcons -4.5 against the Panthers. This Falcons defense through the first 2 weeks of the season, 3rd in turnovers, 2nd in scoring defense, 2nd in total defense, the 2nd best defense against the pass, the 9th best defense against the run. They're tied for 5th in sacks. Now, they did play the Bucs with an injured O-line, but that's a top 5 offense from a year ago. They played the Vikings also without Christian Darrisaw, but that's a top 5 offense in the NFL a year ago. But even though with the injuries on both of those offensive lines, where this Falcons defense is today compared to where it was at the end of last season, it is night and day, and you got to be happy if you're a Falcons fan. And they're going against a Panthers team that just lost 2 starting offensive linemen for the year in Austin Corbett and Robert Hunt. The Panthers have 1 sack on the year and a 8% pressure rate. That is 10 percentile points lower than the 31st lowest pressure rate in the NFL. So they're not going to get any pressure against on Michael Penix. They don't have the guys on the outside to cover Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts. J.C. Horn's a good player, but he's not enough. This Panthers defense, I think, is the worst in the NFL. They were the worst defense in the run last year. They're 7th against the run this year so far, but they got torched in week 1 on the ground. This Falcons offense just ran for 200 yards against a Vikings defense without Blake Cashman, without Andrew Van Ginkel. I understand that. But this Vikings defense was top 2 against the run a season ago. The Bears could get nothing going on the ground in week 1. And Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier ran through that defense like it was no problem. The Panthers do not have a chance in this game. So I love the Falcons minus 4.5 here. If you are making money line parlays, this is the safest, not crazy money line odds to throw in all of your money line parlays this week. Penix also threw for 312 yards. Bijan rushed for 170 yards versus a very similar Panthers defense in week 18 of last season. I love this Falcons offense against this Panthers defense that doesn't generate any pressure, is garbage against the run, and outside of J.C. Horn has nobody to cover this group of pass catchers, this group of weapons in Atlanta. And defensively for the Panthers, it's a joke. So I love, offensively for the Panthers, Bryce Young hasn't looked like a competent quarterback unless it's in garbage time of the season. Like when the season's over, he looks good. When the game's over, he looks good. When the quarterback play matters, he's looked horrible. That's been the case this year as well. So I love the Falcons minus 4.5 in this game as well. And throw them in your moneyline parlays if you do make moneyline parlays every week. I love the Falcons. All right, ugly game. Bengals at Vikings. The Vikings are 2.5-point favorites. I like the Bengals plus the points in this game. Jake Browning's been pretty good as a starter, considering he's a backup. 4-3 record, 1,800 yards and 11 touchdown to 7 interception ratio in 7 starts. So that's 266 yards per game. And the Vikings are injured, man. Limited in practice on Wednesday. Jonathan Grenard, their leading sack guy from a year ago. Van Ginkel, I think, was second in sacks on this team a year ago. Theo Jackson, Jeff Okudah, Harrison Smith. So 3 guys in the secondary, also limited in practice. Blake Cashman, their best off-ball linebackers on the IR. Aaron Jones is on the IR as well. Good news, though. Christian Darrisaw was a full participant. And with Trey Hendrickson coming to town, the sack leader from a year ago, that definitely helps. But the injuries on this Vikings defense and the way the Falcons just ran the ball down the middle of this defense last week with Algier and Bijan makes me lean on the lean Bengals in this game. The Falcons O-line is definitely better than the Bengals offensive line. I understand that. But they are without Aaron Jones, the Vikings are, and they are without Jordan Addison. And I understand that this Bengals defense isn't good, but DJ Turner and Cam Taylor-Britt aren't exactly garbage corners, even though they do have a bottom 5 defense against the pass through the first 2 weeks. I'm getting Jake Browning vibes over Carson Wentz vibes. Sue me. This is a tough game to pick for sure. I think it's a 50-50 toss-up. And if you, gun to your head, you have to bet, which I'm kind of doing myself because I just want to see how I could do if I just pick every spread this week. There's value in picking. When you think it's a pick 'em game, there's value in the underdog. And I trust Jake Browning at this point more than Carson Wentz. I have no clue what to expect. This Bengals defense has played better through the first 2 weeks of the season than a lot of people thought they would. It's still not a good unit, but they're top 10 versus the run, and that's where this Vikings defense or this Vikings offense start. That's where they get going. That's where they get their juices flowing is through the run. No Jordan Addison. TJ Hawkinson hasn't been the same since coming back from injury last year. So I lean with Jake Browning, who has more experience in this offense with better playmakers against a banged up Viking defense than I do. I lean with Browning more than Carson Wentz, who's still relatively new to this system. So I lean with Jake Browning. I like the over in this game as well, but I'm trying to stay away from totals because I've been absolutely cooked, guys. I bet 2 unders so far this season. I bet under in Bills-Ravens Sunday Night Football. The total went over 80 points. And then I bet the under in Cowboys-Giants last week. That game also had over 80 points. Not good. Okay, Steelers at Patriots. The Steelers are 2-point favorites in this game. The Steelers defense needs to get a lot better at some point. There's no reason they shouldn't win the line of scrimmage defensively against this Patriots offensive line. That being said, though, the Pats defensive line is going to dominate the Steelers offensive line. And if Christian Gonzalez plays, I think the Patriots have a very good shot at winning this game. They lead the NFL in sacks. They did play the Dolphins and Raiders, who aren't the greatest offensive lines, but the Steelers' offensive line also sucks. Aaron has been sacked 7 times, tied for 4th in the league. Christian Gonzalez limited in practice today. If he plays, this Pats defense will be at its full potential, and he is, I think, a top 5 corner in this league, but they have stunk against the pass. That's been the weakness of this Pats defense, allowing 8 yards per pass attempt. And conversely, the Steelers have also allowed 8 yards per pass attempt through the year, both bottom 5 in total defense. The Pats and the Steelers, what are like 2 teams historically that are just known for their defense, both bottom 5 in total defense through the first 2 weeks. This is a tough game for me to pick, but I lean the Patriots because I lean the Patriots if Christian Gonzalez plays. If Christian Gonzalez doesn't play, I lean the Steelers. Patriots O-line, or the Steelers O-line, both O-lines stink. But the Patriots have been able to generate more pressure at this point in the season than the Steelers. TJ Watt has been a ghost. I don't know where he's been. I lean the Patriots, and I think we're nearing the end of the road here for Mike Tomlin. I don't want to completely write him off yet, but if we need to see something out of this defense. Jalen Ramsey's washed as fuck in coverage, too. I'm sorry for cursing. He is so bad in coverage. It's not even funny. But he'll make a few plays a game. He'll have a nice hit stick. He'll have an interception because his ball skills are still there. He's not anywhere near the ball. The receivers are running past him. Still a good tackler, but in coverage, he's nowhere to be seen. So I like the Patriots in this game. This is the toughest game for me to pick in the entire 1 o'clock slate. All right. Raiders at Commanders. The Raiders are 1-1. Commanders are 1-1. I love the Commanders -3 here, coming off of 10 days rest against a Raiders team that's on a little bit of a short week. They just played on Monday. The Raiders don't have the receivers to get open against this Commanders secondary, who don't look now. They have some guys on the back end in Washington. Lattimore looks like the worst out of the 3, which is crazy considering how good he's been throughout his career. But Mikey Sanders still looks great, second-year player. And Trey Amos, the rookie corner from Ole Miss, has also looked great in his first 2 games as a pro. So it's only 2 games, but he's looked incredible. So the back end of this Commanders secondary, of this Commanders defense, has looked good. Where they're generating pressure, that's where the concern is. But the Raiders don't have the greatest offensive line, and Geno Smith looked bad against the Raiders. Coming off a short week, Commanders have a lot of rest. I trust JD5 in the bounce back spot here. And the Raiders don't have the guys on the back end either to cover Debo or Terry McLaurin. And outside of Max Crosby, there's not a whole lot of pass rush to rely on. The Commanders' offensive line is better than it showed against the Green Bay Packers. I still think it's a top 10 unit in the league. So I think they'll be able to contain Max Crosby against Josh Simmons, however, or is it Connerly? I get them confused. I think it's Connerly's on the Commanders, Simmons is on the Chiefs. But rookie right tackle, regardless, Josh Connerly, I'm pretty sure, looked bad against the Packers. Max Crosby coming to town, that does worry me a little bit. That's where this game can get wrecked, is if Max Crosby just runs through him. So they got to chip him. They got to send some extra help Josh Simmons' way, or go back to Sam Cosmi at right tackle. But that's where I'm concerned for this Commanders offensive line. But I like the Commanders -3. Jaden Daniels is that guy. Bounce back game after a tough week 2, 10 days rest. I think they cook the Raiders here at home. Texans at Jaguars. I think the Texans beat the Jaguars, quite frankly. But the more I thought about it, I think it's going to be a little bit closer than a lot of people think. Guys, I'm looking at this. Oh, I'm going to freak out. Hopefully it doesn't upload like this, but I'm looking at the camera footage for the first time 34 minutes into the video, and it looks a little laggy. I wanted to upload this on the YouTube. If it's laggy, if it's laggy in post, I'm gonna throw a fit. If you're seeing this on the YouTube, then it definitely wasn't laggy. But yeah, anyway. The Texans, I think they beat the Jaguars. Their spread is they are 2.5-point underdogs. So you take the Texans plus the points. You take the Texans on the money line. They played 2 of the best offenses in the NFL so far. They held a Rams offense to 14 points. They held a Bucs offense to just 20 points, and 7 of them came on the final possession of the game. This offense is what worries me. Nick Caley, the new offensive coordinator, it doesn't look good. The plays don't look good. The play calling doesn't look good, and he's not using. I saw Nico Elite Takes say this, and I couldn't agree more. They're not using their young rookies, and they looked explosive. Woody Marks looked explosive. Jalen Noel looked very explosive in the returning game. You need to get these guys the ball more. Get Xavier Hutchinson out of there. Get Justin Watson off the field. Throw in Jaden Higgins. Throw in Jalen Noel. Hopefully Christian Kirk can come back, because they need something in this passing game outside of Nico Collins. Against the Jaguars defense, that is pretty solid. I think this Texans offensive line protected C.J. Stroud better in week 2 than they did in week 1. It's still not great, and this Jags front 7 is pretty good with Eric Armstead, Josh Hines-Allen, And Trayvon Walker, who's been a stud as well. Also, Josh Hines Allen, he's on the Jaguars, right? Why am I thinking he's not? I don't know. I think I'm crazy. But yeah, that was crazy. He's on the Jaguars. But yeah, Texans offensive line looked better than people will say it did in week 2 against the Buccaneers, but they don't really have any elite guys that can pressure the quarterback. A lot of it was simulated pressure with Todd Bowles and the way he loves to drop defenses. The Jags secondary is also weak. Jamar Chase just cooked them, which is good news for Nico Collins. But Jamar also has T. Higgins on the other side that can take a lot of pressure off of Jamar Chase, even though he needs to be the first name circled when you're game planning for the Bengals. Nico Collins needs some help. CJ Stroud and Nico Collins need some help because it can't just be them two. But I think too good of a quarterback, too good of a defense too. The Texans defense is legit, and too good of a head coach in DeMeco Ryans to drop to 0-3 against a Jaguars team that's been very uninspiring. The offense has looked good, but I think this is the worst offense that the Texans will have played for the first 3 weeks of the season. So I like the Texans plus the points here. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you made it this far, go download Pickett, use code FST in the referral, so you have a chance to win up $100, and I get a little bit of money too. So it helps everybody. They're literally paying you to download and use the app. Follow. If this is on the YouTube, if the quality isn't too laggy and I don't want to kill myself, hit the subscribe button. Follow on every platform. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Love you guys. We're going to the fucking moon. Let's have a good NFL Sunday. Oh, here's one last piece of advice I saw on TikTok before I leave you guys. If you like overs, and this makes so much sense because I did this last week with Travion Henderson. His rushing line was like high 20s on Wednesday. I went back into my sportsbook account on Sunday morning to place the bet, and his rushing yard line was up like 4 or 5 yards. So I saw this piece of advice on TikTok, and it makes so much sense after what happened last week with some of the player props I said I liked on Wednesday but didn't place until Saturday or Sunday. If you like overs, you bet them early in the week before the public comes in and bumps those numbers up. If you like unders, you wait till the end of the week to place those because the public will come in. Everybody bets overs anyway, so those are going to get bumped up, and then you take the under. So if you like the over, take it early in the week on a player prop. If you like the under, take it later in the week. I think that, like that guy said that on TikTok. I'm like, it's TikTok, whatever. But it made so much sense because I was going to bet Travion Henderson. It lost either way. Like he didn't hit it either way. But I was going to bet him hit on Wednesday when I looked at it, or Thursday when I looked at it last week. And then I look at it again Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whenever I looked at it, and it was like 4 or 5 yards higher. So if you're going to bet player prop overs, bet them early in the week. If you're going to bet unders, bet them later in the week. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Follow Fire Sports Takes on all platforms. I love you guys. Yeah, we're going to the fucking moon, baby. Everybody have a good NFL Sunday, good week. If you're watching on the YouTube, Fire Sports Takes on Spotify, and you can get the rest of the 4 p.m. slate because I'm probably not going to post that on YouTube. That'll just be in podcast format. But thank you, everybody, for listening. I'll catch you guys on the next episode of the Fire Sports Takes podcast.